And a day in Ottawa, and the massive police operation to end the paralyzing protest is not over yet. Good evening, I'm Hanomansing. Tonight, hundreds of officers, dozens arrested. All of this just steps from the heart of Canadian democracy.
Hold that line!
Arrest after arrest after arrest. Equipped with historic powers, police closed in with a promise. It's not over until the protesters are gone.
We will run this operation 24 hours a day until the residents and community have their entire city back.
This is peaceful! I'm here for your kids!
Leaders arrested, funds frozen, families in the middle of the action, and the people of Ottawa ready to reclaim their city.
People are just torn apart.
The lasting anger, the shaken trust, and what happens next.
It's unjustified, and I believe it's tyrannical. It's just a sad day in Canada.
We have extensive coverage of this breaking story. This is The National. And this hour, the situation in downtown Ottawa still evolving. Police and protesters continue to square off as step by step, intersection by intersection, officers push into territory the protesters have held for 22 days. David Common is out on the streets there now. And David, what's happening where you are?
Well, Ian, once again tonight, protesters out on the streets. You see a couple of hundred back here, right in front of the Chateau Laurier, the historic hotel here in Ottawa, very close to the Parliament building. So it does continue, but you now see a very large police presence on the street. This on a day that has seen more than 100 arrests and at times very tense moments between police and protesters. That last sort of barricade, the major barricade, a couple of hundred people still manning those barricades there. They are face to face with riot police, in some cases Quebec Provincial Police, Toronto Police, Ontario Provincial Police, agencies that have come in from across the province and indeed really across the country because there are other provinces that are represented. Inside the Chateau Laurier there are lines of riot police, some with cameras, drones in the air. We've seen helicopters over the course of the day, and it continues with large numbers of police. Relatively speaking, in terms of arrests, we're looking at more than 100 arrests, but there are still a large number of people still on the street in this area, which Ian is considered now a no-go zone.
You and I spoke live on the air about an hour ago, and you were surrounded by people who were yelling. Looks like that's about to happen now. So I'm kind of curious, how safe is it for you and others to be there?
Well, certainly, that media do periodically become the target of taunts, and that's happening right now. But ultimately, we're trying to not make ourselves the story, that there are other issues here. There are people who are at issue, who are taking issue with, our coverage. But, when you look, generally speaking, at the police presence that's out here, that's kind of the broader story that we're seeing unfold in terms of what is likely to take place over the course of the weekend, Ian. We see significant reinforcements happen during the weekends. And so that is the question. As we move into Saturday, do a lot more people to try to come into the city and get through the various roadblocks here and the significantly enhanced police presence.
You are so cool under pressure, and I know you're going to be very smart about staying safe there, David. We will check back with you a little later on. Thank you so much. As we've said, this story has been playing out since early this morning. Ashley Burke has been watching it unfold through the day. And Ashley, let's start with what police are saying tonight about arrests.
In Ottawa, police say that they've now arrested more than 100 people, and that includes someone who they say tried to intentionally harm a police services animal. They say someone threw a bicycle at the feet of a horse, trying to injure it. Now, police horses, of course, are something that's been used here throughout the day by authorities to try and push back demonstrators on what has been a busy and a chaotic day.
Hold that line!
After days of warning that this was coming, police moved in. Following 3 weeks of inaction and criticism, police started to reclaim the heart of the capital. They were no longer just asking protesters to go, they were taking them in.
Police just swarmed in from everywhere and pulled everyone out of the trucks and hauled them away. You must leave. You will be arrested.
Police started from the east. Tactical units, armored vehicles, and multiple police forces methodically pushing the crowd towards Parliament Hill, leaving the back door open for protesters to leave.
Oh, Canada!
Those who didn't faced arrest.
Freedom!
One after another hauled out.
This is what they're doing to us, man.
The police are holding no integrity. It's just a sad day in Canada.
A family with 5 children aged 9 to 18 left in tears. They say their father fell, then was arrested. He ended up somewhere in this line waiting to be processed.
I was more worried about losing one of these guys because they're just pushing, everyone's pushing in all directions. It's hard to keep track. So we just kind of held each other, and it was pretty kind of scary, honestly.
Police had warned it's illegal for children to be here, asking parents to keep them away.
It still shocks and surprises me that we are seeing children put in harm's way in the middle of a demonstration where a police operation is unfolding.
No fighting! No fighting!
Police say a few protesters assaulted officers and attempted to remove their weapons. Then, just like police had warned, officers used tactics not seen here before. As police kept up pressure and the temperature fell, the crowd thinned out. Many chose to leave. By early evening, dozens had been arrested and far fewer trucks blocking streets. But this operation still ongoing, very fluid and very volatile.
And actually, some of those protesters are arrested. They're leaving their vehicles behind, and you've seen how police are dealing with those.
Exactly, Ian. You know, in the face of today's police operation, we did see some truckers get in their vehicles and drive away as police got closer, but not all of them. We saw there were arrests of truckers, and in some cases, police came back to the scene, and we saw them with Ziploc bags with what looked like the personal belongings of those who were arrested, including their keys to their truck, which they then used police to get inside and drive those vehicles off to start clearing out some of these streets, including these ones behind us.
All right, Ashley, thank you very much. Let's get a policing perspective on what's been happening in Ottawa from PY Bourdois, former Deputy Commissioner of the RCMP. And PY, over the years, I've seen police use pepper spray, batons, tear gas, and other tools to clear streets quickly. In Ottawa, so far anyway, we're seeing a much less aggressive approach. Why is that?
A couple of reasons, Ian. First and foremost is history. Law enforcement agencies in our country have learned over the years and have tried different tactics with mixed results. And of course, building from one not so good experience to the other one, police have learned that these type of small step strategies that is currently being deployed, as you've seen last weekend in Windsor and today in Ottawa, is paying off. It's a lot more progressive, peaceful, and less confrontational, in this particular sense of circumstances.
Every once in a while, though, the police, and we've seen this, have had to kind of ratchet things up a bit, and at least a couple of times using horses to go into the crowd. What's the strategy there?
The strategy is obvious, Ian. It's moving the animals between the protesters and the front line of police officers. So therefore, it creates a vacuum. And immediately, if you've seen in the footage, police officer quickly move behind the horses to close the gap. So therefore, it allows police officers, especially when there's a lot of pressure applied on the front line of these police officers, it allows this vacuum to be created so police can move quickly and fill that vacuum and advance and progress.
We've used the word unprecedented and historic a lot to describe what's been happening in Ottawa, not just today, but really for the last 3 weeks. I've not seen a demonstration this big, this lasted so long, but I've also never seen so many police officers deployed in an operation like this. What's the impact of those numbers?
Numbers are important, Ian. Safety is in number in this particular instance. You're looking at an urban environment. You're looking at a large area with protesters that have really this is a different dynamic with a potential for a powder keg. So hence the reason why you plan for the worst and you hope for the best, and safety is in numbers. So therefore, a lot of police officers deployed on the ground, and considering it, and I suspect it's going to be a protracted process, whereas officers will have to relieve each other, to be able to rest and meet the challenge, because you're looking at a longer period of time, extreme cold, difficult conditions. So therefore, it's going to be pretty intense. And law officer agencies so far, they're doing a tremendous job, considering you have 7 agencies that are blended into a single command center, and everybody seems to be moving in the right direction, and a great deal of logistical challenge, but the number allows them to do so, meet that challenge.
And PY, we have about a minute left. You know, the question a lot of people in Ottawa have, and no doubt across the country as well, how much longer before this protest is completely dismantled, do you think?
Well, let's look at Windsor last weekend, and the process, and you're looking, Windsor was a single road leading towards the Ambassador Bridge. It took the law enforcement agencies 2 full days to basically clear everything. This is an urban environment. This is an encampment siege where people have basically built structures, and so therefore police will have to manage and be able to move strategically in order to first and foremost deal with the people, then deal with the vehicles that are left behind, and ultimately the structure. So therefore, it's a monumental challenge for them, and so I suspect it's going to take a little more than the Windsor situation. So my guess would be you're looking at probably 72 plus hours before this whole area is secure. Plus, you have to bear in mind staging areas outside the confines of the city. For instance, Coventry, where the staging area is still there, and it's roughly about 6 kilometers from downtown. So police will have to also manage the other areas outside the core of the city of Ottawa.
PY, I know you've seen a lot in your long career as an RCMP officer, and we really appreciate your insight. Thank you very much.
My pleasure, Ian.
And we have lots of reporters on this story in lots of areas around Parliament Hill. Let's go to Evan Dyer now. He's at the east end of the hill, and what's the situation there?
Well, Ian, we've seen a series of departures over several hours now, continuing to as recently as about 20 minutes ago when we saw a pickup truck with a camper trailer pull out here. Right here where you see these snowbanks, there was, until about an hour ago, a real barricade here made of vehicles. There were 2 large semis and a pickup truck with a very long trailer on it. And the 2 semis went first. We saw the police stop them a little bit further down the road. They have a talk with the driver. They look at the truck. They take the license plate and so on, and then they let them go on their way with a police escort. The last vehicle to leave was that pickup with a big trailer. And this clears a barricade that could have been the next barricade that police would have to confront, because if we turn and look east on Wellington Avenue, right down there, the old Ottawa train station with the Greek columns on it, now acting as the Senate during renovations on Parliament Hill, that's where most of the arrests have been happening. And there was a line of trucks there. Police have been sort of stalled there all day trying to get past there. The next barricade that they would have met would have been this one here, but it has evaporated. And as we've seen drivers leave, we haven't seen recriminations. Sometimes they toot their horns to the crowd as they go. People cheer them. We've heard speeches from the stage saying that nobody should be judged for leaving, that they're heroes, that they should leave with their heads held high, and so on. And we've seen some pretty significant departures, including BJ Dichter, who is perhaps the most senior leader of this convoy, who hasn't actually been arrested, and who left town after telling everyone else to hold the line, and then informed his comrades of the convoy that he was already gone. In fact, we expect to see him appear on Fox News tonight. So there is a slow and steady departure of trucks. With pedestrians, we think even more may be leaving, and it's very easy for a pedestrian to simply walk out of this zone. This is not a hermetic perimeter. They can simply leave. They're being allowed to leave. Indeed, they're being encouraged to leave. And as the night goes on, and it's a cold night, we expect to see more leave, and that will, of course, take away some of the protective barrier that those pedestrians give to the people who are sleeping inside their trucks, inside their RVs. So we would probably expect to see more people taken out of their trucks during the night as the crowds on the street go down. And by morning, we might very well see a very different picture.
And Evan, just one quick follow-up. So in terms of where you are and behind you, you know, I'm struck by how quiet it is and how empty the street looks to me. So not in the live shot we have up now, but in what it looks like behind you. So is that a sign of, like, is that a lot different than it was before? Is that a sign of progress?
The pedestrian traffic here on Wellington has declined significantly in just the last hour or so. Previously, we saw a lot of people almost like tourists or rubberneckers going down to the front line there where the conflict is happening to watch. And sometimes we would see almost little stampedes of people running back and forth. But the numbers have declined. I must say, though, we continue to see families with children on the street and even small groups of teenagers unaccompanied by adults. So there is still that element in the crowd, which of course is going to be of concern. But we are still seeing this steady decline, people leaving. Worth mentioning, though, that just leaving the scene of this protest doesn't mean there won't be consequences. Drivers are driving away. They're taking, in some cases, a lot of tickets with them, and the city has said that they will be made to pay. They're also, in many cases, targets of an injunction brought by an Ottawa lawyer to seek millions, in fact now hundreds of millions of dollars in compensation for the honking, and they may face criminal penalties as well.
All right, Evan, thank you very much.
Thanks, Ian.
Now let's move a little closer to the active protest zone. Jorge Barrera is outside the Chateau Laurier Hotel. And Jorge, describe for us what you're seeing and hearing.
Okay, well, what I'm showing you right now is the new front line in this attempt by police to recapture downtown Ottawa. There's been a fence that's been set up here, and this fence will probably remain here most of the night. We may see more police action at dawn, when light breaks. There's a line of officers behind this fence, and then behind these officers, there's others who have type of non-lethal weapons that fire what I guess you could call a sock round. And then in behind them, there are officers. I don't know if you can see in this picture with, they're pushing, they push the fence. And they're cheering. They just pushed the fence back. I don't know if you saw that. But in behind these lines of officers, there are officers with riot helmets on and what looks like non-lethal weapons to fire tear gas type of canister. So police are prepared, it appears, for any eventuality. As you can see, there is a lot of people still gathered here in front of the Chateau Laurier. There's more people scattered west down Wellington, and you can see Parliament is just, with a really good arm, you could probably hit the edge of it with a rock. There's been a lot of emotion here, a lot of talking to the officers, yelling at the officers, saying, you're on the wrong side of this. And as you just saw, the fence was moved a little while earlier. They were chanting freedom. So this is the new front line, but it's a front line that will move when dawn breaks, when it's expected that police will make a final push to take all the way to Parliament Hill.
Yeah, really nicely done, Jorge. I do have a question for you. And by the way, I guess you're shooting this on your phone, and maybe that's allowing you to be a little stealthy in there, and maybe people don't fully understand what's happening. Anyway, nice job in terms of giving us this view of what's happening at the line. Have you spoken to people who are there? Did they give you any sense of what their plan is? Are they going to stay there through the night, or at least are they telling you that?
From what I've heard is that, yes, people are planning to stay here as long as it takes. I mean, it may be the emotion of the moment. I don't know what's going to happen when, it turns 2 or 3 in the morning. I actually walked by a trucker that I know, that he's still here. He has his rig here. He hasn't left yet. And I plan to touch base with him when I get out of this front line. But, there's a lot of emotion all around here, and there's a lot of anger. And I actually, on my way in, spoke with, with an officer who's doing a checkpoint, and they told me they face more, vitriol than they ever have. And the thing, there's a lot of shock too, because a lot of the people, especially down there where you see those rigs that were taken in the early phases of today's operation, they didn't believe that this was going to happen. They didn't believe that police would actually move in. This surprised them. They thought some of them thought the police were on their side. So emotions are running high. There's anger, and there's this determination to continue to hold this line, which has been the refrain of the Freedom Convoy protest from the beginning. Ian?
Jorge, you're doing such a great job, and I am. It's the power of the cell phone, right? It's so nice to see that bird's eye view, or I guess the sort of the eye level view that you're giving us of the street there. Listen, do you have a sense of what the strategy is on the part of the police here? Do you think, are they just trying to keep people behind that barrier, or are they going to move forward, or do we have any sense of that at all?
Based on my experience covering other types of blockade type protests, they're going to hold this line probably till light breaks. Usually, from what I've seen, police don't like to move forward when it's dark, because you actually can't see everything. You don't know what someone's holding. You don't know what's hiding in the shadows. So I expect it will hold this line all night. It's been something done by police before in 2020 after the OPP moved in. On the Tendenega railway protest, they had officers standing in front of the railway, 24/7 to keep people from going back. So it's not an unknown strategy. The police will probably hold this line all night, I expect. But of course, this is a fully unprecedented type of operation. So anything can, as always, happen. Ian?
Yeah, no, it sure is, and unprecedented coverage as well through the day and into the night. Jorge Barrera, thank you very much for the cell phone view of what's going on.
Thank you, Ian.
And unprecedented certainly is the word, and it is possible. Of course, we heard from P.Y. Bourdois, the former assistant commissioner of the RCMP, that he expects this police operation to continue through the night. But Jorge is absolutely right that in lots of protests we've seen, usually darkness is not a time, or the time when police operations slow down, but whether they'll slow down here or not, of course, we don't know. So we'll continue to look at this, not just through the hour, but through the evening here on CBC News Network. Let's go back to David Common now. He is in downtown Ottawa. He is tracking the arrests. And David, what can you tell us about that?
Well, Ian, as we've said on the broadcast, more than 100 arrests today, and it seems quite certain that there will be more heading into the weekend, perhaps even over tonight. And then, of course, begin, Ian, the legal consequences.
The terms of the standoff have been set, and with the potential power of overwhelming force, it now appears to be just a question of time.
We're not going anywhere.
Well, some are. Dozens of arrests, often for mischief, a criminal charge with a maximum penalty of 10 years in prison. While everyone here could now be arrested, police started at the top of the organization, arresting the protest leadership. Western separatist Tamara Leach.
Back up, please. Just back up.
Saskatchewan trucker Chris Barber. Each charged with counseling others to commit mischief.
Maybe we should go around that way.
Daniel Bulford, until months ago a police officer himself who left his job in the Prime Minister's RCMP security detail after refusing vaccination.
What's that?
You're under arrest, sir.
For what?
Finally, Pat King, a white nationalist and conspiracy theory peddler, revered among supporters on social media.
Could you please step out of the vehicle, sir?
I'd like to get my lawyer on the phone right away.
The arrested must appear before court within 24 hours, which would decide whether to release them at all. If they are, the court is likely to want reassurance they won't return.
They will be under, no doubt, house arrest, so that they must stay inside their homes. There will be social media and communication restrictions placed upon them.
Even as some trucks and others pulled out of Ottawa, sometimes to the cheers or middle fingers of locals, police were taking notes, license plates that could be used to target protesters with financial restrictions or future prosecution, along with reams of video evidence gathered from above. It is possible some protesters will regroup at camps and truck stops, enforcement likely to last for days, the legal process for years to come.
David, one of the protest organizers you mentioned, Chris Barber, appeared in court this afternoon. What happened?
Oh, so he did indeed appear in court. He was released essentially into the custody of his wife. She is his surety. And there are conditions that were placed on that release that he has to leave Ottawa within 24 hours, has to leave the province of Ontario by the middle of next week. Tamara Leach, another one of those protest organizers who was arrested last night, Thursday night into Friday, she will not be in court until, we understand, Saturday morning at this point. She's been in custody throughout that time.
All right. David, thank you.
Thank you.
Joining us now is Karen MacArthur. We saw her in David's story. She's a criminal defense lawyer based in Toronto, and we'll talk about some of the consequences for those arrested. We just heard the charge for some of the organizers include counseling others to commit mischief. And Karen, you know, in regular language, mischief doesn't sound very serious. How serious could those charges turn out to be?
It depends on how they particularize mischief. I mean, we normally think of mischief as what children do, or graffiti on a wall. But if you're barricading or blockading in 3 blocks or 4 blocks of downtown Ottawa and not allowing people to get to their jobs and people to get to school, that's a significant interference with the enjoyment of property, a significant mischief with serious economic consequences. That type of mischief is something that the courts will look at very harshly and could
so,
be.
And so realistically, sorry to interrupt, but realistically, if it is on the serious scale of mischief, what kind of sentences or penalties do courts hand out?
Most of these people are first-time offenders. So principle number 1 is first-time offenders are treated leniently, and you look at their entire life spectrum and bring it before the sentencing court. Likely they would be looking at substantial fines and conditional sentences rather than going to the big house or going to the penitentiary. Likely, in the hands of a good lawyer.
Okay, so some of the people on the street right now are going to get arrested. Some already have been arrested. So organizers aside, for the ordinary person who is standing out there and not listening to the police orders to leave, they end up getting put in handcuffs, put in a police car, taken to jail. What likely is happening to them tonight?
So likely they're spending a cold night in a COVID jail. So they'll be on a concrete slab awaiting their call to their own lawyer or to duty counsel that the state provides. The Ontario government provides that, getting their call and waiting for their bail hearing tomorrow morning. Under Canadian law, you have to appear in front of a judge within 24 hours of your arrest, at least to speak to whether or not you can be released. It doesn't mean that you are released immediately. These folks likely will need to be released to a surety, who I call a jailer on the outside that acts for the state. So if people don't have someone willing to step forward, Chris Barber had his wife that came forward and acted as a surety. But if folks don't have somebody willing to step forward for them, they could spend days and indeed weeks in jail awaiting their bail.
30 seconds, Karen. I just want to ask you this. We hear sometimes about courts being compassionate or lenient, depending on your perspective. Will these protesters end up, many of them, seeing these charges just quietly dropped after a short period of time?
I don't think it will be a short period of time. Our courts, if anything, are crumbling under the weights of COVID restrictions and the obstacles that have been placed in their way. Even with all the technology that we have, things have really slowed down. Crowns, judges, defense lawyers were having a very hard time working through it. I would suspect that even if they were treated leniently, they wouldn't see their charges disappear any faster than 6 to 18 months.
All right, Karen MacArthur, really nice hearing from you tonight. Thank you.
Nice to speak with you, Ian. Have a great evening. Thank you.
Thanks. Well, tonight, some people who live in downtown Ottawa seem caught between relief and resentment. And some are wondering why it took so long to start dismantling this protest. Olivia Stefanovic spoke to residents about their city and its leaders.
The frustration seen everywhere in Ottawa is keenly felt at this small business.
It should be dealt long time ago and, cleared up the place.
This restaurant owner says he's never faced so much uncertainty, hitting even harder than COVID-19.
This is supposed to be a family day weekend, supposed to be in Ottawa, skating. A lot of families supposed to come in, but we are now, people are sitting home, employees are sitting home, we cannot do business.
The uneasy feeling widespread.
Emotionally, just as a city as a whole, people are just torn apart. It's added a lot of division.
The convoy's been really disturbing. It's blocked us from traveling. It's really disturbed our dogs' sleep, our lives.
I woke up at 6 o'clock this morning thinking, are those horns? So they're in my head.
Trust shaken. She wants answers.
Because it took 21 days to get to this point. How is it that the police and the city couldn't see that this wasn't going to be a regular protest?
I've never been so excited to see tow trucks on television. I'm going to tell you that. That was, I think there was a collective thumbs up around the city.
The mayor says he would have preferred a quicker response too, but police didn't have enough resources.
We will run this operation 24 hours a day until the residents and community have their entire city back.
Now that police have backup, they've set up more than 100 checkpoints, preventing more blockades from choking the city.
We don't know what is happening day after day, but now we're seeing a light end of the tunnel.
That sign of hope due to scenes like this, a part of Wellington Street cleared for the first time in 3 weeks, ready for residents to return once the police operation is over. Olivia Stefanovic, CBC News, Ottawa.
In Olivia's story, we heard briefly from the Mayor of Ottawa, Jim Watson. I spoke to him a little earlier this evening. Well, as we have for a few times over the last 2 or 3 weeks, let's check in with Ottawa's Mayor, Jim Watson. And Mayor Watson, like a lot of us, you have been watching the television throughout this day. How do you feel about what's happening in your city?
Well, very concerned, Ian, first and foremost, because obviously as we head into the evening and people start becoming more rowdy, as we're starting to see now, that concerns me. At the same time, there's a sense of relief that the police have finally moved in, very coordinated approach with police services providing officers from around the country. And we saw some very good work by our police service, notwithstanding the fact it's bad weather, lots of snow, people spitting on the police officers, yelling and screaming at them. And it's showing really an ugly side. These protesters are showing an ugly side of Canada, where they show no respect for the rule of law, for the citizens of our city, for the small business community. So on the one hand, there's a sense of relief. Over 25 different trucks have been hauled out of the downtown core. Others are going out on their own accord. We've seen over 100 arrests, but obviously this operation is far from over.
You've been getting updates from your chief, the interim chief, basically every hour. And I wonder, not so much the latest information there, because it continues to change, but in terms of the tone, what sort of tone are you hearing from your interim chief?
Well, one, that their objective is to try to find a peaceful way out of this, but if force is necessary, they'll use all the force that they're allowed to by law, because there are some people that are very hard-headed and hardened in their approach. They're the ones that are basically the ones out front of the Parliament buildings in Wellington. We've been able to clear out the intersection of Rideau and Sussex and Nicholas Street in the Byward Market area. And that's good news. The fact that we have industrial tow trucks is really thanks in large part to the Emergency Act, that we were able to get tow trucks to move these 18-wheelers out, because that was one of the stumbling blocks that we were having over the course of the last week or so. So there's a very strong presence of professional police officers, backed up by obviously our paramedics and other city workers. And we are determined to get these people out of our city, go back to their own hometowns, and let us rebuild and return the streets to the people of Ottawa, as our interim chief said at his press conference today.
And speaking of the people of Ottawa, you issued an apology a couple of nights ago, I guess. And what would you say to them tonight?
Well, we apologize that this has taken so long to resolve. It should never have gone on 4 weeks. There's no question about that. And apologize because I know the boors and the yahoos from
this convoy are never going to apologize. They don't think they've done anything wrong, but apologize to the people who are most adversely affected, those people living in Centertown, Lower Town, the Byward Market, and to the small business community that is already suffering as a result of COVID-19. The last thing in the world they needed was this occupation. So this is a very stressful time for people who live in our city, and we very much appreciate the goodwill by many municipalities across the country providing their resources to help bolster the Ottawa Police Service, who are doing a remarkable job in very, very difficult circumstances.
Let me add one more question. I know under the Emergencies Act, there's an automatic inquiry into, what led to it being invoked. What about for the city of Ottawa? Are you going to be investigating what happened and presumably what went wrong here in terms of the delays?
Absolutely. Two of my colleagues on council, Councillors Hubley and Tim Tierney, brought forward a motion, I believe 2 weeks ago, that was passed unanimously, that we do an independent review of what went well and what didn't go so well, mostly what didn't go so well, for a couple of reasons. Because we have to find out from lessons learned what happened, but more importantly, how do we plan for the future? Because we're going to continue to be the capital. This will be seen as a great way to get publicity from a wide range of disparate groups, and we have to make sure that that never happens again. So whether it's closing off Wellington Street or better intelligence from intelligence services at the federal level, this can't happen to us again, and I wouldn't wish it on any city or town in Canada.
All right, Mayor Watson, as always, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for asking.
And so for many Ottawa residents, these past 22 days have been incredibly challenging. We're joined now by Zexi Lee, a Centertown resident who's the lead plaintiff in a lawsuit against the protest organizers. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. What have you been thinking as you've watched the police operation unfold today?
Thank you so much for having me. Obviously, like many others have said, the first sort of feeling, I think, is relief. We've waited a really long time for action. We've waited too long for action at this point, and I will say I can appreciate sort of the cautious nature of the police movement. I think it's prudent given what we've witnessed over the past 3 weeks, and I can only hope that it'll continue to be peaceful for the most part, and that more and more individuals will choose to leave out their own accord.
You have stepped forward. Your name and face are out there, and as I've watched the coverage over the last 3 weeks or so, I've wondered what kind of reaction you're getting, either good from your fellow residents or maybe bad from people who are opposed to what you've done. What's it been like for you?
I think I tend to have a skewed perspective because I really do try to focus on the positive feedback, because really at the end of the day, the people that are hurling hate and threats at me, their words really don't mean that much unless they are constituting an actual threat, in which case they'll be investigated to the full extent of the law. But really, like I said, what matters are the words of support and the difference that this action has really made in the community, because really, I think nobody should forget this. The first 10 days, we were tortured for 10 days straight, deprived of sleep, sent to anxiety, and trapped within our own homes. And I am just so grateful that I was able to lessen the burden on the community.
So you are resilient and you are optimistic. So what are you hoping for now?
I am hoping for a quick, peaceful end to this occupation. And then following that, I am excited to see the answers as to why this has happened, because I think further than having this end, we, like Mayor Watson said, have to make sure that this never happens again, because really it was the inaction in the very beginning and the, I've said this before, dereliction of duty at very many levels that created this unprecedented situation to begin with. So.
Zexi Lee, thank you very much for speaking with us tonight.
Thank you.
Let's go to the CBC's Ashley Burke now. She is out in Ottawa. And Ashley, I'll wait for you to join us there. Let's see, do we have Ashley? Is she? Okay, she'll be here in just a sec. You're watching live coverage of a special edition of The National here on CBC News Network, and there is Ashley Burke. And the streets behind you, Ashley, how different does it look tonight compared to what it's been like over the last 3 weeks?
Well, what a difference 15 hours can make. This morning, there were trucks filling this street here, transport trucks lining it, blocking traffic. Now look at this. It is completely open. There was a huge transport truck that was horizontal here, blocking just a couple hours ago, blocking this road. And now you can see demonstrators making their way out. What you're looking at is really sort of the back door to this police operation, where they're allowing individuals and protesters to leave on their own. And behind me, we're just going to show you, is the police line. Police are lined up here. And you can see demonstrators on our side, and they have been slowly moving their way forward since we've been on air. Just a very slow pace, but really it seems like the effort right now is to try and get people to just leave on their own. The temperature is dropping, and we are seeing a lot of movement, a lot of demonstrators making their way out of here.
And so you've been out there for hours, and have you seen any kind of changes either in terms of the police strategy or anything else through the day?
We've been out since early this morning, and I can tell you it's been quite methodical to watch. There are points where we were standing on a bridge right when police first moved in, and you could see formations of different police groups, whether it was RCMP or OPP, Ottawa Police, some of the waiting on the wings, and all moving in, and one after another, reinforcements coming in. At the same time, there was someone up on that bridge that was operating a police drone over top of us. Obviously, people in a command center looking at that footage to try to figure out what was the best way to move around protesters to encircle them and start making those arrests. They have moved since then over the hours. They've been at this, slowly pushing protesters hour by hour, a little bit closer down the street. And their goal at this point, so people are heckling us right now, but their goal is to try to keep pushing this back and clear out the road behind me. So this is something we hear a lot when we've been out reporting today from some of the demonstrators here.
Yeah, you know, actually, I was going to say what has changed in the last 24 hours. The snow's not driving in your face like it was last night on the National. And I thought maybe the heckling had eased.
I can see, yeah.
Yeah, I know. And I thought maybe the heckling had eased.
The heckling hasn't eased, but I can see.
Yeah, all right, well, let's consider that progress for tonight. Thanks, Ashley.
Thank you.
There was so much to take in today as police pressed forward in greater numbers than Ottawa has ever seen. Their tactics, as the interim chief had pointed out, different from what the city is used to. Joanna Remiliotis takes us through this long, emotional day.
Well before the sun came up, officers had been given their orders. By 8 a.m., they started getting ready to mount a massive police operation to clear downtown Ottawa of demonstrators and trucks.
For the freedom! Go back to the intersection or you will be arrested.
By 11 a.m., the police lines were clearly forming, with units drawn from across the country. Tactical squads and armored vehicles behind them.
And they're moving.
It took 22 days to get to this point, and every step was measured and methodical. Police moved slowly towards Parliament Hill. At times, they interacted with demonstrators, warning them to leave.
You must leave. You will be arrested.
As the first of dozens of arrests began, provincial police from Quebec, armed with tear gas, stood by. Drones circled above. Officers on rooftops kept a close eye, and mounted police emerged too. By noon, 15 arrests had been made, and police kept inching forward. Despite some skirmishes during arrests, there was little violence at this point while police kept marching in to reclaim the core of the city. The number of officers involved wasn't made public, nor were the number of protesters they faced. Police tweeted protesters were putting children between them and police. The warnings for everyone to leave continued. So did the arrests. As more demonstrators were led away, this man was followed by a family, including young children. For hours, the slow advance, the slow retreat continued. As police got closer to Parliament Hill, protesters dug a snowbank to slow their progress.
No violence here. It's going to be slow, guys.
Despite the shows of defiance, there was minimal force used. Police deliberately did not circle protesters so they could have a way out. As the day wore on, several trucks left. More than 20 were towed away, even as protesters clustered near Parliament Hill. By mid-afternoon, at least 70 people had been arrested, but the real threat of escalation lay ahead as police closed in on the core of demonstrators who refused to leave. By late afternoon, around 5 p.m., police were pushing into the crowds. Mounted forces moved in after police said demonstrators were assaulting officers and had attempted to take their weapons. As night fell, more arrests, upwards of 100 people, and a tense standoff continued. Police promising to work around the clock to clear the area in the days ahead. It is the beginning of the end, but it's not over yet. Joanna Brumaliotis, CBC News, Toronto.
Let's bring in another expert with some insight into how this police operation is unfolded. We're joined now by University of Ottawa criminologist Michael Kempa. Michael, this has moved, I think most observers would use the word slowly, but there is progress being made. What do you make of what you've seen today?
Well, I would definitely say that the movement has been deliberate. It has been quite constant and not relentless, but always progressing. I have been surprised by the number of people who have voluntarily turned themselves in. We've seen a shift in that yesterday there seemed to be many people who did not believe that the state would enforce any rules against them. They openly said they thought that the pamphlets describing the penalties for being there were simply false or misleading. And then today they were turning themselves in. So I believe that there's been communication from leadership that this is the right course of action. And I do think it's part of a strategy to take the argument forward through the courts.
Michael, I've been fascinated watching the various clips our reporters have gathered over the last 3 weeks or so of the various motivations that people have who have been involved in the protests. From your perspective as a criminologist in Ottawa, what do you make of the people who have been involved?
Well, we've been saying all along, there's multiple layers to the protest. There's the friendly face that we've all seen, enjoying themselves, perhaps with an interest in vaccine mandate questions, perhaps just curious or with a point to make against government. There's another group that is more committed to civil liberties questions and more serious political questions. And then there's a smaller, harder element that is here with intentions to destabilize the Canadian state, destabilize the economy, and perhaps replace the government with another form of either coalition or a completely different set of values entirely. We do not know the size of that group. They are not everybody that you see, but they are certainly there. They have misled protesters. They have lied to them about being on the right side of the law, and they have been manipulating the protesters that we see in the bouncy castles and barbecuing and all the rest of it.
Another thing I've wondered, Michael, through this is I wondered if the last people to get arrested here would be the people who are the most committed to whatever the causes are behind this protest, and potentially the most, if not dangerous, then certainly unpredictable. And yet you have some of the leaders who have already been arrested. So let me ask you, do you have a sense that as police close in on fewer and fewer protesters, the task will get more and more difficult for them?
Yes, there is some unknown number, and yesterday I thought it was much larger, of people who I think are committed to perhaps violence against the police, who want that confrontation with the police. Today, I don't know what that number is. It appears to be smaller than I expected, but it is there. I have a feeling that some of this group, strangely at the last moment, may have left following the example of the very divided leadership of the convoy itself. Some who have left by arrest, and others, B.J. Dichter, who left by his own will, for example. When the leaders leave, perhaps some of the most violent committed corps will follow suit.
There will be a lot here for you and your criminology students to study after this protest is over. Michael, thank you very much for speaking with us.
Thank you kindly.
You're watching live coverage here on CBC News Network, a special edition of The National, and we've been showing you this live shot of Ottawa. It's right in front of the Chateau Laurier Hotel, and for those of you who know the geography of Ottawa a bit better, it's near Rideau and Elgin Streets. Our reporters telling us that protesters have been chanting freedom and hold the line. David Cochran telling our desk that there have been hundreds of people there, and it is one of those standoffs that we have seen throughout the protest zone. All right, well, one of our reporters who has been on the street right in the middle of the protest zone is Jorge Barrera, who's been covering this story with his cell phone in hand. And Jorge, describe for us where you are and a little bit more, kind of narrate what we're able to see right now.
All right, I'm right outside the Prime Minister's office right here. This is the heart of downtown Ottawa. Here's the Prime Minister's office, and over here is Parliament Hill. This has been the core location of the Freedom Convoy protest. On this flatbed here is where every weekend there were concerts. People during the week would get up and speak. Sometimes people would deliver sermons here, and there's still semis here. There's 2 over here, and then we got 4 over here. And the one with all the bright lights just laid on its horn for several minutes, maybe 2 or 3 minutes, and people here, it was a real, lifted their spirit. They started to cheer. And I'm gonna just walk over here to show you what's happening in this plaza here, where there's tents where it appears people have set up barbecues, and there's also people gathered around open bonfires here, keeping warm in the cold, keeping vigil over the last remnants of the Freedom Convoy protest, keeping warm. And there's another bonfire here. There's a lot of people milling around. I just spoke with 2 ladies who said that they drove 9 hours from the Lake Huron region to come here. They rented hotel rooms, which allowed them to get through the OPP checkpoints that are layered throughout Ottawa to weed out protesters. And they said they felt compelled to come after they saw arrests because they wanted to fight for freedom, and they were really influenced and moved by the stand that people took here. And when these semis are still what keeps this going. When every time the horn goes, people cheer. If these semis leave, then this protest will probably collapse. But as long as these are here, people are going to rally around them. And I spoke to a trucker that I've met before here, just as I was walking back from the front line, and he told me that he's not going anywhere. He plans to stay till the end. So as long as these semis are here, as long as these truckers are here, their supporters, the core that remain will fight on. We'll stay here until they're finally pushed out, which could come as early as tomorrow.
Jorge, just terrific work. We have 2 minutes left here, so I may jump in and interrupt you because I got a couple of questions I want to ask you. The first one is, in terms of the police operation, I'm kind of struck by, the standoffs that we've seen in other places, and yet no sign of police here. Everything seems so quiet and empty. Is this a place police are eventually heading towards, or have they already been through here?
No, this is where they have been aiming for since this morning, right? This is Wellington. So if I go east straight down here, you're going to hit the Chateau Laurier where that front line is, and that police is coming up. Also, off of these streets, off of down Metcalfe, for example, there's still clumps of trucks parked along the street. I think there's some still on Kent. So there's still these little pockets outside of the parliamentary precinct itself that didn't face any police action. There was a group on another street that runs south of here on Lyon, just across from, just up from the Library and Archives Canada, those guys, they were waiting there. They thought the police would come. They never came, and they just sort of picked up and drove off in the afternoon because, you know, police have been focused on the heart, going after the heart of this freedom convoy, and this is it.
Just you know, a minute here, maybe 45 seconds, Jorge. I mentioned it earlier in the hour, but I just want to say it again for people who may have joined us. The reason you're able to walk around so freely and not get heckled, I assume, is because people think you're just a guy with a phone talking and have no idea that you're reporting live on the National.
Because they're live streamers, independent people with YouTube channels, Facebook channels, TikTok channels, have been all over this protest. They're you know, everybody is streaming, reporting their own version of what they're experiencing, and they're everywhere. You see them, and so yeah, I blend in with the culture of this protest, this culture of live streaming, of reporting your own news, because there's absolutely no trust in any mainstream media. You know, they've come to conclude that we're all, like, mainstream media is manipulated by shadowy powers, and they don't trust what's reported.
And there's a lot to talk about on that topic for sure, Jorge, but I love the fact that you've been able to get in there behind the police lines and show us what's going on. So very nice work, and we'll continue to check with you through the evening. I hope your battery is well charged. Jorge Barrera walking through basically what is the nerve center, the center of this protest, and as he says, it's where the police are slowly making their way to. We saw him earlier in the hour where he was telling us about, well, where he showed us the police line, right? And eventually, I guess their intention is to move to where he is now. You're watching Breaking News on the National. Special coverage continues on CBC News Network and CBC Gem. We will be right back. An unprecedented day in Ottawa, and the massive police operation to end the paralyzing protest is not over yet. Good evening, I'm Hanomansing. Tonight, hundreds of officers, dozens arrested. All of this just steps from the heart of Canadian democracy.
Hold that line!
Arrest after arrest after arrest. Equipped with historic powers, police closed in with a promise. It's not over until the protesters are gone.
We will run this operation 24 hours a day until the residents and community have their entire city back.
I'm here for your kids.
Leaders arrested, funds frozen, families in the middle of the action, and the people of Ottawa ready to reclaim their city.
People are just torn apart.
The lasting anger, the shaken trust, and what happens next.
It's unjustified, and I believe it's tyrannical. It's just a sad day in Canada.
We have extensive coverage of this breaking story. This is The National. And welcome to those of you watching on CBC Television. We're breaking into Olympic coverage on this historic night in the nation's capital. Tonight, the situation in downtown Ottawa continues to evolve. Police and protesters continue to square off as step by step, intersection by intersection, officers push into territory the protesters have held for 22 days. David Common is out on the streets there now. And David, what's happening where you are?
Well, Ian, in a day that has seen more than 100 arrests on the streets, including to the key leadership of this convoy protest, you see a large group, a couple of hundred of protesters who are face-to-face with public order unit police officers. Some people may think of them as riot police officers wearing shields, at times with batons. Sometimes they are Quebec provincial police officers, Toronto police officers, Ontario provincial police, or RCMP. It gives you a sense of the large-scale law enforcement presence that's on the streets now, but the crowd remains very energized. Fireworks going off, chants of freedom, freedom continue to be heard. Up the street here, you see Parliament. Just in the darkness behind me, there continue to be some trucks and others still encamped there, still saying that they will hold the ground and remain in place. But we have seen over the course of today considerable enforcement activities, police horses being brought out, so it is very much a different day. The question, as we head into the weekend, and remember, weekends are when we see large reinforcements come in, groups that come in from elsewhere. Is that going to happen again tomorrow? And if so, what does it begin to look like, Ian?
But notice the people who are walking there. When you and I have spoken earlier this evening, as soon as that light's on and you're talking to the camera, you have started to get heckled and harassed. Not happening this hour. Is that because most people are far away?
I think it's just, frankly, happenstance. We have been heckled periodically through the day. We try not to be the story ourselves, frankly, here, Ian. There are people here who believe they are right, who believe they have legitimate grievances and want to be heard. And they are Canadian citizens like the rest of us, and so deserve the opportunity to be heard. However, after 3 weeks, many people in Ottawa don't want to hear it anymore. They want it shut down, and we are beginning to see that enforcement activity with these arrests and with continued police presence that is expected to grow over the course of the weekend.
All right, David, thank you very much. So this has been playing out since early this morning. Ashley Burke has been watching the police operation unfold all day long. And Ashley, let's start with what police are saying tonight about arrests.
And tonight, Ottawa police say they have arrested more than 100 protesters, and that includes someone who they say tried to intentionally harm a police services animal. Police say someone threw a bicycle at the feet of a horse trying to injure it. Now, police say that these police horses, of course, are one of the methods that they have been using throughout the day to try and push those demonstrators back on what has been a busy and a dramatic day.
Hold that line!
After days of warning that this was coming, police moved in. Following 3 weeks of inaction and criticism, police started to reclaim the heart of the capital. They were no longer just asking protesters to go, they were taking them in.
Police just swarmed in from everywhere and pulled everyone out of the trucks and hauled them away.
You must leave. You will be arrested.
Police started from the east. Tactical units, armored vehicles, and multiple police forces methodically pushing the crowd towards Parliament Hill, leaving the back door open for protesters to leave.
Oh, Canada!
Those who didn't faced arrest.
Freedom!
One after another hauled out.
This is what they're doing to us, man.
The police are holding no integrity. It's just a sad day in Canada.
A family with 5 children aged 9 to 18 left in tears. They say their father fell, then was arrested. He ended up somewhere in this line waiting to be processed.
I was more worried about losing one of these guys because they're just pushing, everyone's pushing in all directions. It's hard to keep track. So we just kind of held each other, and it was pretty kind of scary, honestly.
Police had warned it's illegal for children to be here, asking parents to keep them away.
It still shocks and surprises me that we are seeing children put in harm's way in the middle of a demonstration where a police operation is unfolding.
No fighting! No fighting!
Police say a few protesters assaulted officers and attempted to remove their weapons. Then, just like police had warned, officers used tactics not seen here before. As police kept up pressure and the temperature fell, the crowd thinned out. Many chose to leave. By early evening, dozens had been arrested and far fewer trucks blocking streets. But this operation still ongoing, very fluid and very volatile.
And actually, some of those protesters, after they were arrested, they left their vehicles behind. How are police dealing with those?
Well, Ian, in the face of this police operation, we did see some truckers get in their vehicles and drive away from streets just like this one behind me as police got closer. We also saw arrests, and in some cases, police showed up on the scene carrying big Ziploc bags with what looked like those they arrested's personal belongings, including keys to their vehicle that they then used to get inside and drive those trucks out, start clearing off roads like this one, which earlier today was packed with vehicles.
All right, Ashley, thank you. So Ashley and David staying safely away from where the police lines are because it has been volatile. Jorge Barrera, though, has been able to get really close to the action with his phone in hand, and he is outside the Chateau Laurier right now. And as we look at the live pictures from your phone, Jorge, describe what's going on there.
So this is the front line, but there's been a change in a rearrangement of the furniture, if you will. So the one line of fencing that was here, less than 40 minutes ago, has now changed. Now there's 2 layers of fencing, and the line of officers is actually keeping space between themselves and a second layer of fence. We still have, as you can see here, we still have the tactical RCMP emergency response team members in behind the row of police officers, and way in the back you still have the riot police with the riot helmets and the non-lethal weapon that could fire things like tear gas related chemical irritants. The crowd, however, has really thinned over the last 40 minutes or so. Before this place was shoulder to shoulder, pressed against the fence, but it has thinned substantially. This line will remain probably for most of the night, maybe till dawn breaks. In these sorts of situations, from my experience, police don't like to move in and continue to claim territory against a resisting group of people because at night there's shadows, you can't see everything, you don't know what everybody's holding. So this is a line that will remain, that will begin to move when light breaks, likely in the morning.
Jorge, we have a minute left here in this segment. I don't know if you're able to walk a little bit or, let us see a little bit more of what's going on there. But in the remaining minute, describe for us a little bit more. You touched on it, but a little bit more what the mood is there among those protesters who we see standing at the police line.
Yeah, the mood has sort of softened a little bit from the anger that was here just moments ago, but there is still these bursts of anger just right at the front line. But in behind there's a little bit of sort of a festive feeling. We have a drum that's going here. We have people with sparkly stars and their signs, and people brought their animals here. So, there's a mixed emotions here, but these people appear to be digging in for the long haul tonight. We'll see what happens when midnight turns to 1 o'clock, but right now there's still a substantial number, Ian.
It is fantastic how holding that cell phone, you're able to take us right to the police line and live on the National without people even knowing that that's what's going on. Jorge Barrera, thank you so much. So much about what's going on in Ottawa has been unprecedented. The size of the protest, how long it's gone on, and the police operation we're seeing now. And let's get a little bit of analysis on that from former RCMP Superintendent Ted D. Jagger. Ted, one of the things, and I mentioned this to another former RCMP officer last hour, one of the things that has been striking to me is how slowly, methodically police have moved, and how we haven't seen, at least in the live shots I've looked at, any sign of using batons or tear gas or other crowd control methods. What's your view on these tactics here tonight?
Well, you're absolutely right. Methodical is absolutely the right word to use. It's been very deliberate, very intense.
We seem to have lost.
They're taking their time.
We lost your audio there for a sec, but now it's back, Ted. So why don't you start your answer again, if you don't mind? Yeah.
Sure, no problem. Sorry about that. I think what we saw was a very methodical and very deliberate approach that the police were taking. They started right off the bat by asking the protesters to leave, as they have been doing for the past several days. And they definitely have been taking their time, which I believe is the right approach. Time is on their side. They have the lawful authority to be there. They have the lawful authority to demand that the protesters leave. And that's exactly what they're doing. And we've seen them using police officers wearing their normal duty uniforms, as opposed to the tactical troops, as the RCMP would call them, or the public order units. And they're taking a very measured approach. And I believe they're still asking the protesters, even on that line, to please back up and to please move. And certainly we've seen arrests as a result of protesters not moving, but the police intention remains a peaceful resolution to this.
Former Deputy Commissioner P.Y. Bourdois, who we talked to last hour, figures that this operation is going to take, at least another 48 to 72 hours. What's your estimate?
I would agree with that. It will take some time. It's going to happen in phases. We've already seen the police clearing Wellington Street in the area of the War Memorial, and they'll continue to do that. Even once the people are leave on their own accord, hopefully, but even if they leave with the assistance of the police, then they still have to go into the second phase, and that's clearing all of the equipment from the trucks and anything else that's there to open up the street. And then there's going to be a significant police presence in the days to come to ensure that the protest does not reconstitute, that people don't come through there. And that's the intent of the cordon that's already been established with the checkpoints, but also to ensure that people can get back to the lawful use and enjoyment of those properties.
Ted, thank you very much for your analysis on this.
Thank you.
Let's go back to David Common now. He is in downtown Ottawa. He's been tracking the arrests through the day. And on that topic, David, what can you tell us?
Well, indeed, there have been arrests starting last night. We began to see arrests targeting particularly the leadership of the Convoy protest movement. That continued, looking again at the leadership into the morning. And then there have been periodic arrests through the course of the day as officers have faced off, and I mean directly face to face, against many protesters over the course of the day, Ian. The terms of the standoff have been set, and with the potential power of overwhelming force, it now appears to be just a question of time.
We're not going anywhere.
Well, some are. Dozens of arrests, often for mischief, a criminal charge with a maximum penalty of 10 years in prison. While everyone here could now be arrested, police started at the top of the organization, arresting the protest leadership. Western separatist Tamara Leach. Saskatchewan trucker Chris Barber, each charged with counseling others to commit mischief.
Maybe we should go around that way.
Daniel Bulford, until months ago a police officer himself who left his job in the Prime Minister's RCMP security detail after refusing vaccination.
What's that? You're under arrest, sir. For what?
Finally, Pat King, a white nationalist and conspiracy theory peddler, revered among supporters on social media.
Could you please step out of the vehicle, sir? I'd like to get my lawyer on the phone right away.
The arrested must appear before court within 24 hours, which would decide whether to release them at all. If they are, the court is likely to want reassurance they won't return.
They will be under, no doubt, house arrest, so that they must stay inside their homes. There will be social media and communication restrictions placed upon them.
Even as some trucks and others pulled out of Ottawa, sometimes to the cheers or middle fingers of locals, police were taking notes, license plates that could be used to target protesters with financial restrictions or future prosecution, along with reams of video evidence gathered from above. It is possible some protesters will regroup at camps and truck stops, enforcement likely to last for days, the legal process for years to come.
And David, one of the protest organizers that you mentioned, Chris Barber, was in court this afternoon. What happened?
Well, he certainly was, Ian, and we understand that he was released essentially on surety to the custody of his wife. It is required that he leave the Ottawa area within 24 hours, leave the province of Ontario by midweek. Those are the conditions placed on him by the court. Tamara Leach, another one of the protest leaders, she remains in custody tonight. She was arrested last night, will not be in court until we expect tomorrow morning at this point.
All right, a little louder where you are now, David. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We have reporters in various parts of downtown Ottawa, and let's go to Evan Dyer now. He's at the east end of Parliament Hill. And Evan, what's going on where you are?
Yes, to situate myself perhaps so that viewers can place me, there's the War Memorial right behind me. We picked a kind of a bird's eye view to be able to look over most of the Wellington Street protests. You were just speaking to David, who's down there. That's where that frontline activity is taking place, where police are facing off against protesters. In between the Chateau Laurier, the sort of Disney fairy castle on the left, and the old Ottawa train station with the Greek columns, which is now acting as Senate during renovations. That's where most of the arrests today have happened. But as you can see, the main blockade is actually further up Wellington Street. So the parliamentary compound up here is where probably the largest remaining concentration of trucks are going towards the west away from here. And it's a lot less concentrated than it was not that long ago. All through the day, we've seen trucks pulling out of here, including many of the trucks that only came onto Wellington Street in the last few days as the result of a deal between the truckers' convoy leader Tamara Leach and the mayor, Jim Watson. A deal to try to move trucks off of residential streets where they were obviously a major nuisance to residents, and to get them to all concentrate down here. Since then, this street itself has begun to really empty out, and we've seen big rigs pulling out. We've seen pickups hauling camper trailers pulling out. We've seen a pretty significant departure of vehicles during the day, and there are now some big wide open patches where previously trucks were parked shoulder to shoulder essentially. Bouncy castles have been deflated and wrapped up and taken away. There's a definite feeling that things are winding down on Wellington Street. A lot of people have decided, I guess, that discretion is the better part of valor. This is the 11th hour. I think that's obvious to everybody, and they've decided not to get arrested, not to lose their trucks. And we see them heading south on these streets that go away from the parliamentary compound, being detained by police briefly, having some details taken down, but then allowed to go on their way.
All right, Evan, thank you very much on this cold night in Ottawa. And let's take another live look at the scene that is unfolding in part of the downtown area. Police continue to try to remove protesters from the downtown core. This operation has been underway since early in the morning. We have much more breaking news coverage ahead on CBC News Network and CBC Gen. If you're watching us on CBC Television, we're going to send you back to Scott Russell and Olympic Games prime time. Welcome back. Here's a live look from Ottawa, the view just outside the Chateau Laurier. The crowds have thinned a bit over the past few hours, but it does look like it will be continuing for some time. Keep in mind, though, minus 16 degrees in Ottawa right now. Tonight, those who live downtown are caught between relief and resentment. Why did it take so long to start removing the protests that disrupted their lives for 3 weeks? Some are asking. Olivia Stefanovich spoke to some of them about the faith they have lost in their city's leaders.
The frustration seen everywhere in Ottawa is keenly felt at this small business.
It should be dealt long time ago and, cleared up the place.
This restaurant owner says he's never faced so much uncertainty, hitting even harder than COVID-19.
This is supposed to be a family day weekend, supposed to be in Ottawa, skating. A lot of families supposed to come in, but we are now, people are sitting home, employees are sitting home, we cannot do business.
The uneasy feeling widespread.
Emotionally, just as a city as a whole, people are just torn apart. It's added a lot of division.
The convoy's been really disturbing. It's blocked us from traveling. It's really disturbed our dogs' sleep, our lives.
I woke up at 6 o'clock this morning thinking, are those horns? So they're in my head.
Trust shaken. She wants answers.
Because it took 21 days to get to this point. How is it that the police and the city couldn't see that this wasn't going to be a regular protest?
I've never been so excited to see tow trucks on television. I'm going to tell you that. That was, I think there was a collective thumbs up around the city.
The mayor says he would have preferred a quicker response too, but police didn't have enough resources.
We will run this operation 24 hours a day until the residents and community have their entire city back.
Now that police have backup, they've set up more than 100 checkpoints, preventing more blockades from choking the city.
We don't know what is happening day after day, but now we seeing a light end of the tunnel.
That sign of hope due to scenes like this, a part of Wellington Street cleared for the first time in 3 weeks, ready for residents to return once the police operation is over. Olivia Stefanovic, CBC News, Ottawa.
And in Olivia's story, you saw the Mayor of Ottawa, Jim Watson. I spoke to him a little earlier this evening. Mayor Watson, like a lot of us, you have been watching the television throughout this day. How do you feel about what's happening in your city?
Well, very concerned, Ian, first and foremost, because obviously as we head into the evening and people start becoming more rowdy, as we're starting to see now, that concerns me. At the same time, there's a sense of relief that the police have finally moved in, a very coordinated approach with police services providing officers from around the country. And we saw some very good work by our police service, notwithstanding the fact it's bad weather, lots of snow, people spitting on the police officers, yelling and screaming at them. And it's showing really an ugly side. These protesters are showing an ugly side of Canada, where they show no respect for the rule of law, for the citizens of our city, for the small business community. So on the one hand, there's a sense of relief. Over 25 different trucks have been hauled out of the downtown core. Others are going out on their own accord. We've seen over 100 arrests, but obviously this operation is far from over.
You've been getting updates from your chief, the interim chief, basically every hour. And I wonder, not so much the latest information there, because it continues to change, but in terms of the tone, what sort of tone are you hearing from your interim chief?
Well, one, that their objective is to try to find a peaceful way out of this. But if force is necessary, they'll use all the force that they're allowed to by law, because there are some people that are very hard-headed and hardened in their approach. They're the ones that are basically the ones out front of the Parliament buildings in Wellington. We've been able to clear out the intersection of Rideau and Sussex and Nicholas Street in the Byward Market area. And that's good news. The fact that we have industrial tow trucks is really thanks in large part to the Emergency Act, that we were able to get tow trucks to move these 18-wheelers out, because that was one of the stumbling blocks that we were having over the course of the last week or so. So there's a very strong presence of professional police officers, backed up by obviously our paramedics and other city workers. And we are determined to get these people out of our city, go back to their own hometowns, and let us rebuild and return the streets to the people of Ottawa, as our interim chief said at his press conference today.
And speaking of the people of Ottawa, you issued an apology a couple of nights ago, I guess. And what would you say to them tonight?
Well, we apologize that this has taken so long to resolve. It should never have gone on 4 weeks. There's no question about that. And apologize because I know the boors and the yahoos from this convoy are never going to apologize. They don't think they've done anything wrong, but apologize to the people who are most adversely affected, those people living in Centretown, Lower Town, the Byward Market, and to the small business community that is already suffering as a result of COVID-19. The last thing in the world they needed was this occupation. So this is a very stressful time for people who live in our city, and we very much appreciate the goodwill by many municipalities across the country providing their resources to help bolster the Ottawa Police Service, who are doing a remarkable job in very, very difficult circumstances.
Let me add one more question. I know under the Emergencies Act, there's an automatic inquiry into, what led to it being invoked. What about for the city of Ottawa? Are you going to be investigating what happened and presumably what went wrong here in terms of the delays?
Absolutely. Two of my colleagues on council, Councillors Hubley and Tim Tierney, brought forward a motion, I believe 2 weeks ago, that was passed unanimously, that we do an independent review of what went well and what didn't go so well, mostly what didn't go so well, for a couple of reasons. Because we have to find out from lessons learned what happened, but more importantly, how do we plan for the future? Because we're going to continue to be the capital. This will be seen as a great way to get publicity from a wide range of disparate groups, and we have to make sure that that never happens again. So whether it's closing off Wellington Street or better intelligence from intelligence services at the federal level, this can't happen to us again, and I wouldn't wish it on any city or town in Canada.
All right. Mayor Watson, as always, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for asking.
At this late hour, what's happening in downtown Ottawa depends. You saw a little bit earlier in the hour, Evan Dyer showing us a street that was virtually empty. This one, as you can tell, clearly not, with trucks and protesters still there. The police operation to clear the streets has been underway since early this morning, and we're going to take a closer look at how the day has unfolded, the tactics used by police, and what to watch for next. More breaking news here on The National right after the break. Looking once again at a live shot of downtown Ottawa, many hours after an unprecedented police crackdown began on Friday morning, targeting protesters deemed illegal. So much to take in today as police pressed forward in greater numbers than Ottawa has ever seen. Their tactics, as the interim chief pointed out, different from what the city is used to. Joanna Remiliotis takes us through what has been a long, emotional day.
Well before the sun came up, officers had been given their orders. By 8 a.m., they started getting ready to mount a massive police operation to clear downtown Ottawa of demonstrators and trucks.
For the freedom! Go back to the intersection or you will be arrested.
By 11 a.m., the police lines were clearly forming, with units drawn from across the country. Tactical squads and armored vehicles behind them.
And they're moving.
It took 22 days to get to this point, and every step was measured and methodical. Police moved slowly towards Parliament Hill. At times, they interacted with demonstrators, warning them to leave.
You must leave. You will be arrested.
As the first of dozens of arrests began, provincial police from Quebec, armed with tear gas, stood by. Drones circled above. Officers on rooftops kept a close eye, and mounted police emerged too. By noon, 15 arrests had been made, and police kept inching forward. Despite some skirmishes during arrests, there was little violence at this point while police kept marching in to reclaim the core of the city. The number of officers involved wasn't made public, nor were the number of protesters they faced. Police tweeted protesters were putting children between them and police. The warnings for everyone to leave continued. So did the arrests. As more demonstrators were led away, this man was followed by a family, including young children. For hours, the slow advance, the slow retreat continued. As police got closer to Parliament Hill, protesters dug a snowbank to slow their progress.
No violence here. It's going to be slow, guys.
Despite the shows of defiance, there was minimal force used. Police deliberately did not circle protesters so they could have a way out. As the day wore on, several trucks left. More than 20 were towed away, even as protesters clustered near Parliament Hill. By mid-afternoon, at least 70 people had been arrested, but the real threat of escalation lay ahead as police closed in on the core of demonstrators who refused to leave. By late afternoon, around 5 p.m., police were pushing into the crowds. Mounted forces moved in after police said demonstrators were assaulting officers and had attempted to take their weapons. As night fell, more arrests, upwards of 100 people, and a tense standoff continued. Police promising to work around the clock to clear the area in the days ahead. It is the beginning of the end, but it's not over yet. Joanna Brumaliotis, CBC News, Toronto.
Well, earlier in the hour, we had some analysis from a former senior RCMP officer on how police have, how the strategy has unfolded during the day. And let's get a criminologist's view now. We're joined by Michael Kempa from the University of Ottawa. And here we are, Michael, at this hour, what appears to be standoffs between large numbers of police officers and some really hardy protesters who, despite the cold and despite the warnings, are still sticking in the protest zone. What do you make of how this police operation is moving ahead?
Well, the protesters seem to be going nowhere, but I am very encouraged by what I'm seeing from the police organizations on the ground. We were caught flat-footed over the last 3 weeks or so. Our institutions of democracy, our police organizations, intelligence, municipal level, provincial level, federal level of government was not prepared. We had to scramble with the Emergencies Act, but now we're seeing the state regroup. This is the first line of state institutions, the police organizations responding. If it's going to go wrong anywhere, it's going to be here. And so far, it's going very well. If we can get past the policing stage and get to the court stage, we're in a very good position to deal with the challenge to our democracy.
Among the things criminologists study is criminal behavior. I don't know if that definition fits the protesters who are standing there, though these protests are illegal. But what kind of insights do you have, or even questions do you have, about the people who have been protesting here for the last 22 days?
The main question I have is, in the huge throngs of people we've seen continuing up to last night, still sort of a party atmosphere, while the amazing repressive state apparatus was assembling in front of their very eyes, they just didn't respond, and they were looking directly at thousands of police officers coming together in riot gear, not believing that there would be any response. I'm so keen to find out how that could be possible, and I'm sure it's got something to do with the fact that we've lived in such a peaceful country where very many citizens, not very often racialized or Indigenous citizens, but these citizens have never before experienced the repressive state apparatus and are simply unable to recognize it even while they're staring straight at it.
In this social media environment, people who are so quick to take things out of context better ask you to put in context so that everyone understands when you say whether it's oppressive or repressive state mechanisms. I don't remember the exact phrase, but what exactly do you mean?
I mean the armed units of the state, the security agencies. I don't mean that in a negative sense. I mean, this is the sovereign power of the state is institutionalized here, and it must be used sometimes and carefully with checks and balances, such as we still have in the context of the Emergencies Act. But when the state's integrity, its sovereignty is being challenged, it will respond, however necessary, to maintain stability. And even with these citizens looking at that and knowing that the state will probably eventually have to protect itself for the good of all citizens, they just didn't believe it would apply to them. I'm fascinated to study that. How is that possible? It's hard to even fathom.
We have just 45 seconds left, but you know, it's an open question all the time whether sentences for some people deter either them or others in the future. But what do you hope the courts will do to the protesters who are eventually convicted, if indeed they are?
The main thing for me with the courts is they're a very cool democratic institution. They separate noise and confounded arguments and force you to present your position in a cold, organized way. All of these people will present their views to the court for Canadians to see in calm language, and then it will be up to Canadians to wade through all of their arguments and decide if there's anything in it. It's very hard to understand the arguments in a protest, and some of us may have been sympathetic. I'd like to hear the arguments in court.
Interesting point, Michael. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we'll be right back with more live breaking news coverage in just a moment. Welcome back. We continue to follow the huge police operation in Ottawa tonight to end the occupation that has lasted for 3 weeks. This is a live look at the downtown core, where, as you can see, some protesters still defiant as the night goes on. Along with this show of force, a big part of shutting the protest down has been trying to cut off the money flow. Millions in donations have now been frozen, much of it in the form of cryptocurrency. Here's Katie Nicholson on the aggressive, rarely used legal tool used to cut off the cash.
A few cars and trucks still frozen in place. And now the money earmarked to support this protest frozen as well.
This court injunction freezes the money in the bank accounts of all of the organizers.
It's called a Mareva injunction, a court order that freezes assets filed without first notifying the defendant. A rarely used legal maneuver, and lawyers say for the first time in Canada, it's being used to target cryptocurrency. That's encrypted funds held in a digital wallet.
If your truck is being used in these protests, your bank account will be frozen and your insurance will be suspended.
This is different from the financial restrictions announced as part of the Emergencies Act earlier this week. The intent here is to keep money on hold for Ottawa residents who are suing the protesters.
This is an order in the context of this class action, which is intended to get damages for the benefit of the residents of Ottawa, the businesses of Ottawa, employees.
Lawyers estimate the injunction puts a hold on more than $10 million, including the $8 million donated through GiveSendGo and about $1.2 million in Bitcoin. After GoFundMe shut down donations, some organizers pushed donations through cryptocurrency. Organizer Pat King even announced a Convoy Bitcoin.
Ladies and gentlemen, tonight is the launch of the Freedom Convoy token.
But experts say cryptocurrency is even easier for law enforcement to track.
Blockchain is more traceable than bank accounts because it's an open public ledger. So anybody can look at the addresses and see where the transactions are coming from and going to.
The lawyer representing the convoy says he plans to challenge the court order, but with dozens of arrests, funding perhaps now the least of the convoy's legal worries. Katie Nicholson, CBC News, Toronto.
The police operation in Ottawa meant Parliament was shut down all day Friday due to security concerns. But tonight, Government House Leader Mark Holland said debate will resume on Saturday over the controversial decision to invoke the Emergencies Act for the very first time. Its impact already being felt, but the government still needs to get it passed. They've promised that will be done soon. Earlier, I spoke to Chief Political Correspondent Rosemary Barton. Political viewpoints are so charged right now. Where do things go from here?
Yeah, so in the immediate, Ian, the politics, that conversation is going to shift back to the government's use of the Emergencies Act, something that the government has to legally justify to Canadians and to MPs. But there are, of course, some bigger questions here for politicians, for political parties. These protests have exposed a pretty significant fracture in society and really put it front and center. One that existed before the pandemic, certainly, but pandemic measures became kind of a lightning rod for deep discontent with government. And political parties have been using the protests and these issues to their own political advantage all the way back to the election, which you remember, and still now. The Liberals have pointed to some of the Conservatives who support the protest and welcomed it in spite of some of its hateful and extreme elements. The Conservatives have tried to make this about the Prime Minister's inaction and desire to divide Canadians with these COVID policies. So neither party is blameless in this. And while we hear plenty of calls for healing and unity, the politics always seems to overtake it. So in the coming days, it's going to be interesting to see whether politicians who also remain very entrenched in their positions can actually take this moment to send a broader message to the country about where we go from here.
All right, Rosemary, thank you.
Thanks.
And we'll be right back with more live breaking news coverage in just a moment. Welcome back. You are looking live at Ottawa, an occupation that has lasted 22 days, stretching into at least one more night, though crowds have been dwindling and more than 100 people have been arrested. Now let's turn back to the situation on the streets. Jorge Barrera is outside the Chateau Laurier in the crowd. And Jorge, you've had a chance to speak to some of the people who are still there at the protest, and what have they been telling you?
So right now I am outside the Prime Minister's office in the shadow of the Peace Tower, and there's, as you can hear, people chanting freedom. This is the heart of the Freedom Convoy protest. This is where on this flatbed here, there was music concert, DJs, and people preaching sermons. And I did speak with 3 people who are, toughing it out here. They were in a warming tent, and 2 of them are actually from Ottawa, and they come in every day to support this cause. Like they said that they believe that Canada is sliding into communism. That's why they're here. And there was another guy who's also here from Sarnia, and he's actually staying in a hotel across the Ottawa River in Gatineau, and he was asking the 2 Ottawa locals how he should try to get to the protest tomorrow with all the police checkpoints. And they told them, just tell him that pick a street that you're going to go visit your girlfriend. So, some strategy being shared among the people here to continue supporting this. It doesn't seem, and they said that they weren't swayed by the police action today. That's actually pushing them to continue to show up. And as you can see, we still got some semi-rigs here. These are the symbolic center of this protest. This all was sparked over cross-border vaccine mandate on truckers. And as long as these semis are here, this protest will go on. These semis provide people with the motivation. They're here for the truckers. But these semis have also been the cause for the longevity of this protest, because these semis have created a logistical problem for police from the beginning by them allowing these semis to park here next to Parliament Hill. It created problems, and with police having to figure out how they could actually move these semis out, especially when you had towing companies refusing to do it. All that's changed with the Emergencies Act, where they can be compelled. But as you can see, there's still a number of them here. I spoke to a trucker earlier today about what his plans were, and he told me that he's not going anywhere. He's going to stick it out till the very end. Now that can change. Earlier today, we were down on Rideau Street, and some truckers there we talked to said they were going to stay till the end. But then when the heat came, they started asking police if they could figure out a way to leave. So that can all change when the heat gets closer.
Right.
And one last thing, Ian, I got this pamphlet walking here, and this is an undercurrent in this protest is a Christian faith. So you can see that's still here. They're still handing them out. So
I'm going to jump in here, Jorge. You've done fantastic work. We really appreciate it. So fascinating to see what it looks like there, which is that area, basically the nerve center of this protest. So that is interesting to see as we look live from Jorge Barrera at what is happening with this protest. Stay with us. The National's coverage of this breaking news continues right after the break.